Hey guys, it's Vera Wylde and I am back again with more tips for beginning cross-dressers. You may be wondering why I am seated down on the floor. The reason being I wanted to show off my legs. Now that does mean that this time we are talking about body hair and specifically getting rid of it. Now there are three main areas that pretty much all of us are going to have to deal with to some extent, and that is chest, pits, and of course the legs. Now, there are other areas that you may have to deal with if you have thicker arm hair or things like that, but these three areas, pretty much no matter what, you're really going to have to deal with. Even if you don't have particularly thick body hair in some of those areas, which I don't. I have very little chest hair, but I still do have to shave off what I have because it'll still show up otherwise. A couple of general things about shaving. The first is there's obviously a great deal of products geared specifically towards women when it comes to shaving. There's a lot of leg razors, a lot of specific shaving gels, shaving creams, all these things intended for use specifically by women. You don't need to use them. You don't. There really is no important or functional difference between a man's razor and a woman's razor. It's marketing. That's all that it is. The only thing you want to be sure of is that you are using a fairly sharp razor. You don't want to be using something too dull, especially when you're starting out and you don't really have sort of a familiarity of shaving these particular curves, because you're just going to be more likely to cut yourself and nick and run into general irritation issues. Now there are options aside from shaving, particularly when it comes to the legs. There's products like Nair and Veet and these sort of chemical sort of things that apply, and then you just would scrape the hair off and it just comes off. Or there's also waxing. Ultimately, though, I really do feel that shaving works best because with the things like Nair or Veet or those sorts of things, at least when I tried them, I found it would miss little bits, or certain parts wouldn't come off as it should, and I would have to end up going over that with a razor anyway. And waxing is just a pain. And I don't necessarily mean the literal pain, though there is that too. It's, for us, for dressers, it's just not worth it. Part of the appeal of waxing for a woman is that they can go weeks without having to do it again. With us, even though if you wax, you can go longer without having to do it again. Then if you shave, you're still going to have to do it regularly enough that waxing, it's just not worth it. So that does leave shaving. Now, you are going to want to use some sort of cream or something to just allow the razor to do its job better. I'm at the point where I really only use just a razor and soap, though if you do that, you want to be sure that you are using a soap that has moisturizer in it, something like Dove, so that's not drying out your skin. But as far as the cream goes, I mentioned there are women's shaving creams and all that. It's effectively the exact same thing. The really only difference is the scent. Women's shaving creams tend to have fruity, natural scents. Men's tend to be muskier, for lack of a better term. But as far as actually using them, it's pretty much the same thing. Now, there's a couple of things that I want to kind of give you a heads up on that you are probably going to catch you off guard otherwise. The first is the cold. Once you remove your leg hair, you will be amazed at how much insulation that actually provided you, and you're probably going to find your legs chilled, shivering, and just in general much colder than you would have expected. Now, this is going to be especially true in the colder months. In the summer, you probably get away with it a little bit better, but you're still going to notice that. The other thing is itching. As the hair grows back in, it is going to itch, and there really is no way around that. So just sort of be prepared to that and know it going in. So a couple of other things. You are going to want to get, even though, as I said, you don't have to get women's shaving cream or anything like that, whatever shaving cream you do use, I recommend getting something for sensitive skin, because even if you don't normally need to use sensitive skin products, these are areas that just aren't used to being hit with a razor, and you probably are going to run into irritation even if you don't usually get it when you shave your face. So again, sort of be prepared for that. Now, there's also the issue of frequency. How often should you be shaving your legs? Now, for genetic women, it's usually in the area of once a week, give or take. For us, it's gonna be more in the neighborhood of twice a week. You don't want to do it too much more than that because you do want to be sure that the hair has grown in enough that the razor can catch it and cut it properly. If you've ever tried, shaving your face in the afternoon when you had shaved it that same morning, it just sort of scrapes. The hair isn't quite long enough to catch the razor. You get razor burn, irritation. Same thing will happen with your legs if you were trying to do it, say, every day. Every other day really is probably pushing it to more in the neighborhood of every 3 or 4 days for most of us if you want to maintain smooth legs. Now, the other thing about smooth legs, of course, is that for a lot of us, with smooth legs, pits, chest, it becomes a point of concern as far as potentially being discovered because, as with so many other things, we get very paranoid that people will notice this and realize that we are cross-dressers. But this is sort of an area that the current fashion trends are really doing us a favor. Manscaping, as much as I hate the term, has become so commonplace that nobody really questions a hairless man anymore. And that's, at this point, really kind of regardless of your body type. They'll just assume that that's what you're doing, and their minds are not going to leap to cross-dressers. So the only sort of exceptions to that is if there are people who see you more regularly, more intimately, and if they're used to seeing you in shorts, that's more of a summer issue. But and suddenly you show up without leg hair, that can be a little weird. But in terms of generally being out in public, and not being in dress just as a man and not having a lot or any body hair is not the giveaway that we worry about. So you really don't have to worry about all of that too much. And that's pretty much it as far as shaving goes. It is pretty essential if you do plan to go out. You can, of course, get clothing to cover the areas that would have the body hair, but that really limits your options as far as clothing and styles go. But, of course, if for whatever reason, if you're not comfortable shaving, there is always that option to just cover it up with clothing and move forward from there. So that's body shaving, that's legs, and all of that. So hope you found that useful. Until next time.